So tell me something. I want you to think of what do you think is the most grueling endurance sport known to mankind. Think about it. Some people may say cycling. Some people may say running. Some people may say swimming. Any ideas? Any thoughts? Well, there's a particular sport that many people don't talk about. It's grueling, it's tough, it tests your physicality, it tests your mental state, it tests your emotions, but you know something, it tests your financial state as well. So I bet you can guess what it is already. Yeah? The life and journey of an entrepreneur is the most grueling blood sport and endurance sport known to mankind. So just before I go, I want to just challenge a conventional concept. The concept that entrepreneurs are born and they're not made. So from Steve Jobs to Larry Page, from Elon Musk to Bill Gates, from Sarah Barkley to Oprah Winfrey, success stories all over the place. And many think that these people have some magic wand or some good luck or some knack that just tells them the difference between right or wrong, what makes money, what doesn't make money. What if I told you that these people have had their dreams shattered? They've seen failure several times. They've thought, they've been puzzled, they've been nervous. They've seen the challenges and the obstacles, right? But they've found ways to come through it. Entrepreneurs are made, they're not born. What you do is that you have to turn up to the party and you have to be prepared to roll up your sleeves, take the punches, fail, and fail again. Maybe most of you know Michael Jordan or have heard of Michael Jordan, ball guy. Remember what he said? He said, I've missed 9,000 shots. I've lost 300 games. I've been entrusted to take the match-winning shots 26 times and failed. I have failed, and failed again. And that's why I'm a success. So that alone should tell you that failure is not something you should deny or be afraid of. It is actually the journey to success. So let me stray a little bit and perhaps talk about myself. So I have been from entrepreneurship to entrepreneurship. I've been in active commercial work engagement for the last 35 years. So basically, I came out of university about 35 years ago. In that time, one of my very early jobs, I worked with literally, I just said entrepreneurs are made and they're not born, right? But this guy was a born entrepreneur and then he made himself. He rolled the dice every day. I learned so much from him. I've never seen someone who has so much wisdom in terms of how to make money. And he started from nothing and he made so much, right? I think he started from 200,000 euros. He sold a bread factory and made $1.4 billion in an 8-year span. I was there all the way and I didn't make a penny. But anyway, so yes, one is I have worked for an entrepreneur. So in that case, I've been an entrepreneur and I've seen it from there. I have built Landmark, obviously, founded Landmark 27 years ago. We worked in 17 different countries, in 4 continents. And today, we're the most visited and biggest tourism platform in West Africa. So I've had a few aspects of failure, and I've had some challenges, and I'm sure some of you are aware of some of the challenges we're going through now. Don't worry, hold that thought. We're all the way on it. We'll talk about it later. I have, so some of you may know the Dragon's Den, I think it's Dragon's Den in the UK, Lion's Den program. So I've been privileged to sit on that panel and witness and speak to budding entrepreneurs, people who have real ideas, who want to solve real problems, right? And I've seen, some of the things that's literally lifting up my heart. I know that this country is safe for the simple reason is that there are just so many ideas. But like someone before me said, right? Ideas are no good if you can't execute them. And to execute the ideas, you got to put your phone down. And you got to put your phone down, and then you got to get up, and you got to roll up your sleeves, and you got to do it, right? Lastly, I've sat in corporate Nigeria. I've served on different boards, local, regional, and international. And in that time, I've seen from far off how decisions are made, how luck is created, and how businesses either succeed or fail, right? So a lot of this is literally experience. But the one thing I want to say here is success leaves clues. Success actually leaves clues. So if you haven't experienced it yourself, read about it or talk about it, because there are clues every single time. So I'm going to move a little bit now. Now, one of the things about life is, when I started off, I said to myself 3 things. I'm going to find somebody that I admire and I want to be like. Right? I'm going to find something I want to chase. Right? And I'm going to find someone that I want to be. I'm going to find something I want to chase, and I'm going to find someone, right, that I want to emulate. Right? Now, it's so important that at some point you have to have a dream to chase, you have to have something to want to do, and you have to have something to respect. If you have those 3 things, whatever it is, you don't have to say it. Whatever it is, right? Stay focused on it, because when you're deviating, or when the going gets tough, that's when you begin to remember what you basically signed up to. So one of the first things is that you're going to go through is challenges, and these challenges are many. And I'll tell you quite a few of the ones I've been through. For those who have heard me talk, we know the details of some of them. But I was about to say I've been in a plane crash, but it was a near plane crash. My mom was by my side, and the plane had to crash land because the way some of the engines had blown. So it was fine. So that's a personal tragedy because it's very difficult. My mom doesn't like flying as a result of that till today. It took me some time to get over it. But more importantly, from a business point of view, we've had issues, right? Some of you may know that we were on the 72nd floor of the 2nd tower in the World Trade Center when the terrorism hit in 2011. And that was a commercial disaster. It is one of the reasons I stand in Nigeria today. I left America, and I said, you know what, we've got to go back to Africa. Came back to Africa. I've had challenges in Africa. I had my office in Libya blown up during the war. I had an African president that took a building that we spent $9 million building, literally, took it off our hands, and we left the country with our tails between our legs. We suffered the foreign exchange crisis here. And believe me, for a company that has borrowed $100 million at a time when it was 180 to 1, when you're faced to pay back those monies when it's 600, 700, or 1,500 to 1, these are real challenges because money doesn't actually grow that fast. So you've got to do things that keep on growing to be able to do that. We have faced COVID. Remember COVID? COVID-19. For many people, it created many businesses. For many, it was a showstopper. My business is about putting everybody in one place, putting all our eggs in one basket, making sure everybody has a great time in one place. COVID said nobody should be together. For 18 months, we didn't make a penny, but I had to pay all the overheads. And then lastly, as I mentioned at the beginning, I think about 3 weeks ago, I was coming back from my brother's 60th birthday. And I was just about to board a flight in Florida, and my phone went ballistic. So someone sends me a message that says, have you seen this? Someone had asked us to, someone thought it was a good idea to build the first 1 kilometer of a 700-kilometer road through the most visited tourist destination in West Africa. And we're ground zero. We are the first 1 kilometer of that road. And they gave me 7 days to vacate. So I read this. I still had to board the plane. And I thought to myself, I can't move out of my bedroom in 7 days, out of my sight in 7 days. But these are challenges. Now, watch this space. It's still on. This is not something that's been solved by any stretch of the imagination. But I tell you something, whatever happens, whichever way it goes, right, we will build something bigger, better, and a monster, right? And if it goes how we hope it will go, it will still be bigger and it will be better. So whatever happens, whatever people take away from you, they can't take away your creativity. They can't take away your imagination. They can't take away your zeal or your desires, right? The only thing they can take away are the things you have, not the things you are. You've got to remember that, right? And I've seen myself, and I said, my mom said to me once, she said, and I was in school, I was mucking around, not doing that well in school, and she said, Paul, you have an excuse if people are smarter than you. Yes. You have an excuse if they're more intelligent than you. But you have no excuse for someone to work harder than you. You have no excuse for someone to dream bigger than you. You have absolutely no excuse not to roll up your sleeves and do what it takes, right, to make a difference. So anyway, over the next 7 minutes, I'm going to tell you a couple of stories. Effectively three tools for success from the clues I've seen. Five lessons or principles, and 2 home truths. So let's start with the 3 tools. So the first one I would mention is dream. And everybody says this. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you want to be successful, you want to do it yourself, you've got to dream. And you've got to dream, not just to dream, but you've got to figure out how you convert that dream, or how you make that dream, or how you execute that dream in a relentless way, in a way that nobody else can, not in a way that other people can copy you, right? So you've got to dare to dream. And there are many stories, and those of you who've heard me speak will probably know a few, but I'm going to try to choose one here. Okay, I'm going to choose the Walt Disney story. So the Walt Disney story, I'm sure all of you know Walt Disney. It's a $200 billion business today. When this guy, there were 4 children. He had a sister called Ruth. They had a very tough upbringing, and they lived in this house, an extremely tough upbringing. So there are times his sister kept on falling sick, and he was quite creative. He drew pictures, and she laughed, and drew all these animations, and she kept on laughing and smiling, and it made her happy, and she forgot she was sick. And he liked that, and he thought to himself, you know what, I want to do this for all children because I like children happy. He was dreaming that he wanted every child he saw to be happy. So he kept on making these drawings. He went out. Anytime he sees children that are sick or sad, he made these drawings, and they got happier and happier. He told his brother, I think we need to find a way to get bigger. So they went to this animation school, and this was after the Second World War, so this is a long time ago, right? He went to this animation school to learn things, but obviously he couldn't pay for the school at the time, so he took on paper rounds. So in America and in Europe, I think, there are these things they call paper rounds. You distribute newspapers to every house. So it's a tough job because you don't start about 4 a.m. in the morning. So he did the morning papers and the evening papers and went to school in between. He found out that when he was doing the paper rounds, he was sleeping in school. He could barely get through school because he was so tired, because he had to wake up early and he had to go to bed late. Anyway, he did this for 6 years, right? He and his brother did it for 6 years and kept on investing the money, right, in his education, and that education in turn produced the information that he used to create Walt Disney. As I said, Walt Disney is the most visited place on planet Earth, right? And it didn't come, right, because he woke up one morning and he thought, someone give me some money, I'm going to create this. He came because he put in the work, he rolled up his sleeves and he did the work. The second thing I would like to talk about is resilience, is staying power. And staying power is one of those things that very few people know whether they have until they're challenged, right? Now, I tell you, I was saying, I think it was yesterday when we were talking casually, the British pirates that used to go and conquer different cities and different islands around the world, right? There's something called burn the boat. They go up to these islands, the boat that they used to go up to the islands, they burnt the boat, right? Because they knew that they had to conquer the island. They were never going to leave, right? And that's what staying power is about. It's about, I am going to do this irrespective, no matter how hard, right, it is, I'm going to get it done, right? And there are a couple of stories of staying power I could tell you, and I will tell the one I actually told in the last conference I spoke, and it's these 2 Irish brothers, James and Tom Monaghan, grew up in a very rough background. Their father died when Tom was at the age of 4, so Tom was a senior brother. And their mother couldn't afford them, so their mother sent them to a home, and they lived in this home for about 6 years. After they lived in the home, Tom decided to go to a seminary and try to become a Catholic father. James came back to the house, and the mother took care of James. James eventually, after school, decided to try and open a restaurant, and they found this little restaurant in Michigan. This was Car State in America. At the time, Tom was thrown out of the seminary for bad behavior. So he left the seminary and decided to join the army to sort of straighten himself out. So he joined the army while James kept on building this restaurant business. After a few years, Tom and James met, and James asked Tom to join him. So why don't you join me in this restaurant business? Let's try and grow it even further. But Tom, at that stage, had left the army and wanted to train himself in university. So he had just started university and said, okay, he would do it just so he can pay his university fees. James himself, when working in the restaurant, was actually a postman and had a postman's job. And the 2 of them together, over the next 5 to 10 years, they went hell for leather. They actually immerse themselves to create one of the best restaurant businesses ever. So they'd opened their third or fourth restaurant. And after some time, James said to himself, you know what, Tom, I think we've made enough money. I want to take my chips off the table. And Tom said, why? The show is just starting. But it was worth a little bit of money at the time. No, James said, no, I've made enough money. Please buy me out and let me take the company car, which was a Volkswagen at the time. So Tom agreed and said, okay. Tom realized he couldn't continue his work, his education, whilst running the restaurant. So he came to run this restaurant himself, right? Now, over the next 15 years, he built Dominic Restaurants was turned into Domino Pizzas. Yeah? 18,000 restaurants around the world, 90 countries in the world, a $60 billion valuation, right? And James was still driving his old Volkswagen. The moral of this story is, if you really want something, right, that you've never had, you've got to prepare to do something you've never done. It means you've got to stay with it, right? Now, the last tool or principle is the principle of adaptability, right? You've got to be adaptable. You're going to be thrown all sorts of curveballs, and you've got to find a way to adapt yourself to some of these curveballs. I'm not going to dwell on the theory of adaptability, but I'm sure you can think of quite a few reasons why being adaptable actually matters, right? But I'm going to go into my 5 tools, right? Some of them were actually in an earlier speech, but I'll go through them all the same. So the first one, I would say, is network relentlessly, and that was the one that was covered. The thing about people have to understand the power of networking. You know what they say? Your network is your net worth, right? Network relentlessly. And if you look at businesses that have succeeded, they've succeeded because of people who have decided to network. So you look at the new social media generation. Facebook, built on networking principles. LinkedIn, built on networking principles. And most of those digital platforms are built on networking principles. But in the real life, it's so important to get out of your comfort zone and to meet people who you wouldn't have a chance of meeting. I think the fact that you're all here means networking is something that you're comfortable with. So that means create a fertile ground for luck to manifest itself, right? Do the sorts of things that make you lucky. Don't think, I said the other day, if you're selling oranges, yes, the person selling oranges behind the car park and the person selling oranges on the main road, the person on the main road succeeds more than the person behind the car park because they see more people. You're selling the same thing at the same price, but one gets luckier than the other, right? So you have to create a wider surface area for luck. I have quite a few stories to tell on that, but I think time is limited. The third tool is the one that says, have ambitious friends. We spoke about that earlier. It's often underplayed, right? But, show me your friends, and I'll tell you who you are. Sergey Brin, Larry Page. The Google story. Tim Cook and Apple. Steve Jobs, the Apple story. Paul Allen, and there's Microsoft, and Bill Gates, the Microsoft story. Some of the most successful partnerships in the world are from the strength of weak ties. People who literally have become friends and they've pushed each other. The thing about having ambitious friends is that they push you, right? And you push each other so much. It's so important to decide where you want to be and look for the people who are already there, right? And emulate them. Another tool is know your numbers, right? If there was one superpower you should have, it should be knowing your numbers. Bill Gates said, when I started my business, it's simple. It was all about numbers. I sent out my business plan to 1,200 people. 900 people said no. 300 people said yes. Of the 300 people that said yes, 85 people actually responded. Of the 85 people, 30 of them, yes, had a big interest and wrote back to me. Of the 30, only 11 of them made me a multimillionaire, right? Now, what does that mean? He started from 1,200, but he knew his numbers, right? So I often say this all the time. If you can't count it, it doesn't count. If you can't count it, it doesn't count. Now, I need to tell you the 2 bitter truths. And I'll start with the first one. The first one is called the just world fallacy. The just world fallacy assumes that it follows the narrative that all good will be rewarded and all evil will be punished. It's a lie. The world is not fair. Good is not always rewarded, and evil is hardly ever punished, especially in countries like this, right? So, the next time you feel that the world is against you, get your the wall, right? Ignore it, pull yourself up, right? And stand up and do what you have to do, right? The world is not fair. It never has been. It never will be. It's not about you. It's about everybody else, right? So whatever it is, yeah, as they say, you can't change the cards that you're dealt. You can only change the hand you play. So the world is not fair. The second truth, if you like, is what I call the balance theory. So, people say, get some sleep, eat properly, make sure you socialize with your friends. Don't lose your friends, divide your day into one-third, and work for one-third of the time. I put it to you, if you prioritize balance over sacrifice, you will not be successful. There's no such thing as balance, right? Balance is for mediocrity. It's for the people who want to be in the middle, right? You must not prioritize balance over sacrifice if you want to be in the top 1% in the world. That is a bitter truth. For many generations, so I have two kids. One is 25 and the other is 20. Oh gosh, you won't like this. And she's 27. And they're always talking about balance. And I said, look, kids, if you want, so my daughter, who's a 27-year-old, she now understands that balance is not as important as sacrifice. My son thinks, he says, well, if he doesn't have balance and he's not prepared to sacrifice and he's not in the top 1%, it doesn't really matter because he'll come to landmark. So when I saw on social media the 7-day notice, I sent it to him. I said, well, you better now start sacrificing. So anyway, a lot has been said. I want to leave you with a couple of thoughts. Yeah? So the first thought I want to leave you with is, we often try to understand where are we in life and what do we want to do. And one of the key things I will always say is, in life, yeah, you are exactly where you need to be to make the change you want to see. And you know what that means? That means it's not somebody else's job. Someone asked me yesterday, how do we bring more people, more people who have money into the East, right? And I said, well, first of all, you start with good governance, right? So first of all, when there's election time, go and vote. When you vote, go and protect your vote. When you protect your vote, make sure that you hold the people who you voted for accountable, right? Because that's the way governments get better, places get better, people get better, businesses get better, right? You can't bring money into a place where you have to pay your costs for 7 days and you can only work for 3 or 4 days because today they're staying at home on Monday, tomorrow is sanitation, the next day. Life doesn't work that way, right? So it's very important to make sure we create a fertile ground where luck can manifest itself, right? And we're there. Many places are much better than the others, right? But we're there. We're getting there as a country. But we need to pull the youth out. You know what I said? I said protect your vote, and then the person I was talking to said, "But I didn't vote." I said, "Well, there you are, right?" But I think it's very important. You must vote and you must protect your vote. And if after you protect your vote, you must find a way to hold your leaders accountable, right? And that way, your future is bright. And if you're not doing it for yourself, do it for your children. And if you don't want to do it for your children, do it for your children's children. So I'm going to end with a favorite quote of mine. And I say, the opportunity of a lifetime can only be realized in the lifetime of that opportunity.